Mike's at the back picking teeth from his skull and playing with his tongue. He's all sick and everything. He kept on punching him and shooting him, and I had to grab him like this to pull him back, and I told him to stop.
The gruesome and completely mindless crime you just heard this 15-year-old describe, and how he talks about it, is only a small part of one of the most heinous acts of evil ever done to a person. And this shocking crime was committed in Summerville, Florida, by a group of people you will never expect. The story you are about to watch is what happens when romance goes wrong. The story begins with the lovely family of a teenage boy by the name of Seth, a young, lovable son to Scott and Sonia Jackson. As a young man, Seth had great aspirations for his life and believed that a romantic relationship was in place when he met Amber Wright and kicked off a relationship with her. In the beginning, everything seemingly went well until Mike Bargo, an 18-year-old teenager, entered the picture. Seth's relationship took a downturn at this point, as it's believed that Amber began to hang out with Mike and even started a secret relationship with him. Upon discovering this, Seth was torn and devastated. In the afternoon of April 17, 2011, Seth and a friend of his, Will, visited a friend and eventually parted ways at about 9 p.m. Will notices his friend is constantly on his phone, and he also appears distracted during their time together. Unfortunately, this will be the last time he will see Seth. The next day, Seth is nowhere to be found, and his mother Sonia files a missing persons report. As the news of his disappearance breaks, Amber's half-brother Kyle sees the news on TV and is terrified. He tells his mother that he is certain that something terrible has happened to Seth, and so his mother alerts the authorities about a rundown building in Summerville that Kyle mentioned. As the cops storm this building, they are shocked beyond words at what they find there. Kyle states that he, Charlie Eli, Mike Bargo, Justin Roach, a 20-year-old friend, and Amber were at this location on the night that Seth went missing. All 5 of them are invited by the cops for further questioning. However, Mike is nowhere to be found at the time. The remaining 4 are put into separate rooms and questioned. This is a technique that is used by cops to spot lies and loopholes in the accounts of those being questioned. These lies are eventually presented to the rest of the interviewees so that the truth can be revealed. A female detective starts with Justin, asking preliminary questions and trying to build rapport. The questions stray to his tattoos, and he speaks quite proudly about them.
Let's talk about your tattoos a little bit. Do you mind?
Yeah, I don't mind at all.
What's it say on the front?
This says head buster on it.
What is that? HSAO?
HEAD.
Then he shows her a recent tattoo on his leg, and the detective notices some scratches there. When she asks him how he got them, he says that he was walking through the woods and got caught up in some vines.
My last one. I have a mushroom right here.
Oh, that's a new one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are all the scratches about?
I was walking through the woods and some vines got a hold of it, and like 3 or 4 vines wrapped around my leg, and I went to go walk in it.
The detective asks him to tell her how he ended up at the police station, and he appears ignorant of everything happening.
Do you know why you're here?
However, she will not take his ignorance and tells him that she is aware that he and some of his other friends were hanging out and that tempers flared between some of the parties there. He eventually admits and says that Eli woke him up that morning and there were cops over at their residence.
Tell me how you ended up here.
I woke up this morning to Charlie waking me up, and there was an officer right there, and I'm here now.
He says he believes it has to do with the possible shooting of Seth.
They said an incident happened.
Okay. With who?
I guess freaking something about some kid that I don't even know who the hell he is. And
yeah, you do. Who is he?
His name's Seth or something like that. And supposedly, I guess he got shot or whatever.
Eli is taken in for questioning next and cannot hide her frustration over the state of her room. A detective comes in and without wasting time asks her to explain how she ended up there.
Do you know why you're here?
Yes, sir.
Why are you here?
Because something happened with Seth.
And so she starts talking about Amber and Seth having plans to meet up to resolve some of their differences.
Amber and I walked up because her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, was Seth, and they wanted to work things out. So we met him up.
This is Sunday night?
Yes, sir. At 58th Court, it was approximately 9:30.
In another room is 15-year-old Amber, who is present with her mother since she is a minor. The detective starts to interrogate her, and she tells her a similar story of meeting up with Seth to discuss their relationship, which had ended.
Did Seth call you or did you call Seth?
Well, he had called me a couple days before that, and I didn't answer.
Okay.
So I called him that night.
And you and Seth, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? You two had a relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
In her account, she tells the detective that they had a stormy relationship as Seth was physically abusive.
Was he, how was your relationship with him?
Not the best.
Tell me why you say not the best.
We'd always fight. He'd always hit me and cheat on me and all that.
So he was physically abusive to you?
Yes, ma'am.
She further tells her that on the night of their meeting, she met Seth and Eli, and after a while, his mother called him. She claims that he had quite a heated argument with his mother via text and eventually stormed off.
We were talking for maybe not even 30 minutes.
Okay.
And his mom, I guess, texted him. And I was like, who are you texting? I thought we were talking. And he was like, my mom told me either right now or never. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess they started arguing, whatever. And then he looked at me. He's like,
Arguing with his mom through
Yes.
text?
and
Okay.
I guess he called her or whatever. I didn't want to get in it. And then he was like, look, I'm not in the mood to talk right now. I'm getting out of here for now. I'll see you around.
Eli continues her story by saying that Seth eventually came to her place where Amber was and asked to be let in to speak with her.
He just stormed off. So when he stormed off, we went back to my house. And about an hour later, he came to my house.
It is believed that Mike, who is now likely dating Amber, was in his room and wasn't aware that she met Seth earlier in the day.
Mike was off in his room like he always is.
Okay.
He never comes out.
So he had no idea you went to see Seth or that you came back from seeing Seth that you're aware of?
I didn't tell him.
With Justin, the detectives press him for some truth, and he is quite economical with all of the events of the date.
I don't know what it is you're being careful about, okay? And it's okay to be careful, okay? But the truth is what it is, okay? And that's what I need from you.
That's pretty much what it is. I don't know the kid.
Okay.
I know he's a little white boy, and
He distances himself from everything and everyone in the house. The detective asks again how he came by his scratches, and he says again that they were from vines. The detective doesn't believe this, as they are quite fresh and look nothing like the kind of scratches that came from vines.
Where'd you get the scratches from on your legs?
vines walking through the woods.
Because those were very, very fresh scratches. When did you get those?
Yesterday, I was walking through the woods yesterday.
Yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
The ladies in their separate rooms continue their story from when Seth came to the house. Amber says that as she and Eli sat to listen to him, Kyle suddenly attacked Seth by hitting him.
She let him in. He sits in the chair. Me and her are sitting by each other on the couch. And out of nowhere, Kyle just gets up and hits him.
So were they arguing first before you hit him? You just...
No, Amber and Seth were talking, and Kyle comes out of nowhere and hits him, and me and Amber dart to my room.
And where was
And
he at?
Kyle said, "Get the fuck out." And he went out that way, and we heard Mike's door hit something, and Mike came out, and we heard gunshots.
It is important to note that from the recovered text messages that Seth last sent out to Amber after meeting up with his friend that night, that he was quite apprehensive about being jumped when he met Amber. Amber says she and Eli fled to their rooms when Kyle hit Seth, and shortly after, Mike's door opened, followed by a number of gunshots. As things calmed down, they heard Kyle asking Mike what he had just done.
And by then, me and Charlie took off to her room. We shut the bathroom door, and we heard another door just fly open, and we just heard gunshot after gunshot after gunshot. And after maybe like 5 or 6 times of hearing it, it got quiet. And then you hear Kyle go, "What did you just do?"
The girls say they never left their room until the next morning. However, for the first time, a discrepancy in the story occurs. While Eli says Mike threatened them not to tell anyone what had just happened and left the house, Amber and Mike remained in his room all day and wouldn't come out. So she and Eli left him at home to go see a friend.
Mike came into the room and he said, "I swear if you guys open your mouth about anything about last night, I'm going to come after you guys." He said, I gotta go. I'm going somewhere.
Okay, and he left.
Yeah. He said, I'm going somewhere. I'll be back later. And me and Amber went up to my friend Chris's house.
At this point, the detective who had left Amber returns and asks that she be questioned alone while Kyle is brought to stay with his mother.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, bud. Do you mind if I talk to her again? Okay, I'm gonna bring Kyle in here with you, okay?
Amber follows the detective and Kyle walks in looking distraught. He has just been grilled by a detective, and you're about to get a better insight into the terrible things that happened to Seth that night. As Kyle walks in, he slumps into a seat there and tells his mother that it is all over for them. He then says that everything that happened to Seth was planned.
Both of your kids are in a thing for murder.
Number 2?
You know,
What do you mean?
what we told you was in the storm. I mean, it was like everything was planned.
With Roach, everybody?
Everybody.
And that everyone was in on it, including James Haven. James is none other than his and Amber's stepfather.
We're gone.
They took my phone.
Everything's gone. James is on it too.
On what? Is it on this?
A brief review of Kyle's interview reveals a no-nonsense approach by the detective, and Kyle begins to spill the beans. He says that he had been having a tough time with his biological dad and was forced to sell his laptop to afford rent at Charlie's place, so he moved out. He met James Haven, his stepfather, who drove and dropped him at Charlie's house that night. Upon arriving, Mike was doing some illegal stuff with hard drugs. Afterward, Mike, under the influence of drugs, expressed his desire to end Seth's life. He asked if the rest of them were okay with this, and Amber said she was.
You know, he's getting all hired, wired up, hyped up and everything. And somebody brought up the name Seth, and he's like, man, I want to go on a killing spree tonight. He's like, I just want to. And he's like, you guys down? And I told him no. I told him I don't.
The detective asks if Justin was there as well, and Kyle, after hesitating, says that he was indeed there.
Said you guys down. Who's he talking to?
Like,
You and him.
me, Amber, Charlie, Roach. Okay.
Who's Roach now?
The guy Justin Soto.
Oh, okay, so Soto was there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is the first time that Justin has been placed at the scene of the crime. Amber, at this point, is being grilled by the detective, who lets her know that Kyle has been telling the truth.
Your brother told me everything. Okay. So you can sit there and you can continue to lie, and I'm going to walk out and treat you like a piece of garbage. Okay. Or you can sit here and treat me with the respect that I treated you with. Okay? And you can tell me the truth.
Yes.
What's your choice going to be?
The truth.
Okay. And she eventually begins to say that she was asked by Mike to call Seth over. When she asked why, he told her that he was tired of him and wanted to end his life.
Mike was like talking to Charlie and Kyle and me. And he was like, you should call Seth. Mm-hmm. And I was like, for what? He was like, act like you're going to make up with him. And I was like, for what, Mike? He's like, because I'm going to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why are you going to do that? He's like, because I'm tired of him.
Eli, who is still lying at this time, is made to understand that all the others have been cooperating and that it was in her best interest to tell the truth. Justin finally decides to tell the truth about that fateful night when he is told that everyone had put him right in the middle of the crime.
I know you were there. I know about what you did. I know that you participated. And I want to know exactly what you did so that I don't blame you for something you didn't do. Because everybody else is. All right?
Blaming me?
Yeah.
Kyle, in his confession, states that he hated Seth because he had once taken his girlfriend from him and he found them together in a compromising position. However, this was not a reason why he would have wanted him to lose his life.
I really hated Seth. And there was time, because my ex-girlfriend, I found him in the bed with my ex-girlfriend, and I really didn't like that, and I loved her. But I really didn't want to go out and kill the kid. It wasn't my intention. And he come, all right. Mm-hmm. Well, Mike was talking about, he's like, listen, He's like, I'll do it.
He continues by saying Mike was really pumped and said he would take the whole blame even if the cops showed up, as he had nothing to lose.
He kept on saying, man, I'll take the blame for it. I'll take the blame for everything. I'll do it. I'll do everything. I'll take the blame if the cops ask you, if anything, I'll take the blame. I have nothing to lose.
Kyle probably assumes that by putting all the blame on Mike, he might receive a lighter sentence. However, the detectives get him to admit that all 5 of them had knowledge about what Mike was about to do, and yet agreed to it. Kyle, like the others, agrees that Mike asked them to hit Seath over the head so as to make it easier for him to finish him off, and they agreed to his suggestion. When Seath visited, Kyle hit him and Justin joined too. Suddenly, Mike appeared and fired twice at Seath from behind.
I hit him and he stood up, and when I broke it over his head 3 times, he stood up, and then Roach come in, and then he hit him with his stick, and then he was trying to go through the kitchen, and Mike shot him in the back twice with a gun.
In spite of these fatal blows, Kyle managed to crawl to the door, but Mike continued to shoot.
And then he was still trying to go out the front door, and Mike just kept on shooting him. I kept on telling Mike, I was like, stop it, let him go. And he just kept on shooting him. And he goes out the house.
Eventually, they drag the almost lifeless body and take it to the bathtub.
And they put him in the bath. And then Roach come in, and he helped put him in the bathtub.
Did you help put Seath in the bathtub?
Yeah, I grabbed a little piece of him and just put him in there, and then I just went up.
After more sadistic acts by Mike, they forced the body into a bag and cremate it.
Then he hog-tied him, and then he put him in the bag.
In what bag?
Like I said, that sleeping bag.
It is in the course of fetching the woods for the burning that Justin ends up with the scratches.
How'd you get the scratch marks on your legs? Fighting with Seath?
No, I didn't. It's still woods and stuff.
Finding firewood?
Huh?
Finding firewood?
Yeah,
To burn up Seath?
I guess, yeah.
After the cremation, the remains are disposed of in a desolate quarry where Mike had once gone with an ex-girlfriend to swim. With all the parties owning up to their part of this crime, they are put together in a room. One of the detectives tells them the fate that awaits them: prison time for Eli and the juvenile assessment center for Kyle and his sister.
This is the story. You're an adult, correct? Juvenile and juvenile, correct? Am I right? Mm-hmm. You two are under 18 and you're 18. You're all going to be booked with first-degree premeditated murder. You two will go to the juvenile assessment center. You will go to the Marion County Jail. Okay? Take a deep breath. You'll have no bond. You won't be getting out.
As the reality of their fate dawns on them, they begin to heap all the blame on Mike, who is still at large.
I know I was scared because Mike had a gun and
you know what? Stop it. Do you think we haven't been listening to everything you guys have been saying in here?
In another part of the state, Mike is lying low in the home of James William, the father of his current girlfriend, Kristen. Mike had just admitted to his role in the demise of Seath and agreed to turn himself over to the cops, so James decides to take him in. However, on the way home, he finds his home crawling with cops, and soon they are both taken in for questioning. The cops briefly quiz them, and James' current girlfriend says Mike told her the truth about what had happened.
He said that the little girl that lives there, that's 15 years old, said that her boyfriend had raped her. And I was like, oh my God, are you for real? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, I killed him. I said, what?
She is terrified by the human monster sitting across from her and tells him to tell James what he just did.
Mike, I said, you got to tell Jim what's going on. You got to tell him. I said, I can't let him get in no trouble because you want to be crazy.
In her report, the role played by Amber's stepfather finally comes to the fore. He helped the criminals to dispose of Seath's body after Amber called him to Charlie's house. Mike declined to speak with the detectives and requested for his lawyer, so he was not interrogated at all.
I'd like to give him one phone call because I need to get over with somebody. I need to call my lawyer.
You want to talk to a lawyer? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, I'll talk to you, but I don't want to call my dad. I want to call my dad.
Hold on a second. You just said you want to talk to a lawyer. Did you want I talk to a lawyer, or do you want to talk to me? I want to clarify that first.
Talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
In the end, all 6 people complicit in the horrendous crimes were sentenced accordingly. James Haven, Amber's stepfather, was sentenced to up to 30 years in prison, but in recent developments, his sentence was deferred. Amber, Justin, Kyle, and Charlie were convicted and received life sentences. However, after 10 years, Charlie was retried and accepted a plea bargain for his role in the demise of Seth. So at 27 years old, she was freed. The main culprit was given the heaviest sentence, the death penalty. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more stories on true crime, then be sure to subscribe to our channel. This way, you'll be notified every single time we upload new videos. Thank you for watching.